The text from my sister arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Engagement party Saturday at the Pearson estate. 7 p.m. Cocktail attire. I was in a board meeting when it came through. I glanced at my phone, smiled slightly, and turned my attention back to the CFO's presentation on our latest acquisition. I texted back during the break. "Congratulations. I'll be there." Her response came an hour later. "Actually, Maya, we need to talk about the guest list." I called her from my office, the corner office on the 42nd floor of Tech Venture Tower, overlooking the city's financial district. "Congratulations on the engagement, Vanessa. When did Brandon propose?" "Last weekend." "Very romantic, obviously." She sounded distracted. "Look, about Saturday. Brandon and I have been discussing the guest list extensively. This party is really important for his career networking." "Okay. So we're keeping it to successful professionals. People who can help Brandon's trajectory." "He's CEO of Novatech Solutions, the software company?" "Very impressive. We're inviting his board members, venture capital partners, industry leaders." "Sounds like a great opportunity." "Exactly. Which is why." She paused. "Maya, you understand that we need a certain caliber of guest. People with impressive careers, real achievements. Brandon's colleagues are all very accomplished." "I see. You're still doing that freelance consulting thing, right? Working from home." "I do consulting work, yes." "Right. So you see the issue. Brandon's inviting his CEO friends, board members from major tech companies. I can't have you there talking about freelance projects and working from your apartment. It makes our family look unsuccessful." "Our family." The Chin family, whose reputation Vanessa had been carefully curating since college. "Our parents ran a comfortable accounting firm. Vanessa worked in marketing at a mid-size pharmaceutical company. Respectable, upper-middle class, but nothing that would impress the tech elite she was marrying into. What Vanessa didn't know was that my freelance consulting was venture capital investment. 8 years ago, I'd taken my inheritance from our grandfather and made strategic tech investments. Those investments had grown exponentially. 3 years ago, I'd founded Chin Capital Ventures. We specialized in early and mid-stage tech company investments, with a portfolio worth $3.2 billion. I personally held controlling stakes in 4 major tech firms. And 6 months ago, Chin Capital had acquired a 65% controlling interest in Novatech Solutions, the company where Brandon Pearson served as CEO. Brandon reported to my board. I'd signed off on his compensation package. I'd been copied on every major strategic decision Novatech made. But I'd kept my business life completely separate from my family. After years of Vanessa introducing me as her little sister who does computer stuff, after countless family dinners where my parents worried I wasn't applying myself, I'd stopped trying to explain. I used my middle name professionally, Maya Lin Chin, and let my family believe whatever they wanted. "So you're uninviting me from your engagement party," I said. "Not uninviting. Just, maybe it's better if you skip this one. We'll do a family dinner after, just us." "But Saturday is for Brandon's professional network." "Does Brandon know you're uninviting your sister?" "He agrees we need to maintain a certain image. His board members will be there, major investors. We can't have someone who works from home doing freelance consulting. It's embarrassing, Maya. You're almost 30 and you still don't have a real career." "A real career?" Brandon made $340,000 as CEO. A good salary. I'd approved myself when the board reviewed it last quarter. "I see. I knew you'd understand. We'll celebrate together another time. Oh, and maybe don't mention the engagement party to Mom and Dad. They might not understand why we're keeping it to professionals only." She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my office looking out at the city skyline. On my desk sat 3 documents requiring my signature. Novatech's quarterly board report, a merger proposal that would fundamentally restructure the company, and Brandon Pearson's performance review. I picked up my phone and called my executive assistant. "Jennifer, what's on my calendar for Saturday evening?" "You're scheduled to attend the Novatech board reception. Mandatory attendance for all board members and major shareholders." "What time?" 7 p.m. At the Pearson estate. It's a dual celebration. Brandon Pearson's engagement party and the board's quarterly gathering. Of course. Brandon had scheduled his engagement party at the same venue, same time as the mandatory board reception. Confirm my attendance. And Jennifer? Make sure my name card identifies me as the primary shareholder and board chair. Will do, Ms. Chin. I looked at the merger documents on my desk. The proposal would consolidate Novatech with two other Chin Capital portfolio companies, creating a larger entity with new leadership structure. Brandon's role as CEO would be eliminated. He'd be offered a VP position in the merged company or a generous severance package. The board vote was scheduled for Monday. As majority shareholder, my vote would determine the outcome. I signed the merger approval with my usual signature. Lin Chin, Chair, Chin Capital Ventures. Saturday would be interesting. Hold up. The Pearson estate was elegant. A historic mansion converted into an event venue. I arrived at 7:15, deliberately late enough that most guests would already be there. The valet took my car, a Tesla Model S. I wore a black Armani cocktail dress with minimal jewelry. Professional but not flashy. Inside, the party was in full swing. The grand ballroom had been decorated with engagement party elegance. Floral arrangements, champagne fountains, a string quartet. But I recognized the corporate touches. Novatech branding subtly incorporated into the decor. Company executives clustered in conversation groups. I spotted Vanessa immediately. She wore a white dress, her engagement ring prominently displayed as she held court with a group of women. Brandon stood nearby with several men in suits. Novatech's CFO, the VP of Engineering, two board members who held minority stakes. My parents stood awkwardly near the bar, clearly out of their element. Dad wore his best suit. Mom kept smoothing her dress, looking uncertain. Vanessa spotted them and walked over, her smile tight. Mom, Dad, you should mingle. Brandon's colleagues are all so interesting. We don't really know anyone here, honey, Mom said. Just be social. Talk about the firm. Make good impressions. Vanessa glanced around nervously. I walked past them toward the bar, keeping my head down. I ordered wine and positioned myself where I could observe. That's Maya. Mom's voice excited. She'd spotted me. Vanessa turned, her face going from confusion to horror. What are you doing here? I was invited. I specifically told you not to come. This is for Brandon's professional network. I know. I'm part of that network. Brandon appeared at Vanessa's elbow. Vanessa, what's wrong? My sister showed up. I told her not to come. Brandon looked at me blankly. I'm sorry, have we met? Not in person. Maya Lin Chin. Chin Capital Ventures. I watched the recognition dawn. His expression shifted from polite confusion to shock. You're Lin Chin? From the board. Primary shareholder and board chair, yes. Vanessa looked between us, not understanding. What are you talking about? Maya does freelance consulting. Your sister owns 65% of my company, Brandon said faintly. She's my boss. The conversation around us stopped. The Novatech executives were staring. My parents looked completely confused. Vanessa laughed nervously. That's ridiculous. Maya works from home doing computer consulting. I own controlling interest in Novatech Solutions among other companies, I said calmly. Chin Capital Ventures has a $3.2 billion portfolio. I've been on Novatech's board for 6 months. Brandon reports directly to me. That's impossible. I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in and acquire tech companies. Novatech was one of our acquisitions. Brandon's face had gone pale. His fiancé had just uninvited his primary shareholder and boss from their engagement party because she thought her sister was unsuccessful. The CFO approached cautiously. Miss Chin, we weren't expecting you. Brandon scheduled the engagement party at the same time as our quarterly board reception. I'm here for both. Vanessa found her voice. You've been lying to us. I never lied. You assumed. I just didn't correct you. Mom stepped forward. Maya, you own a company? I founded Chin Capital 8 years ago. We specialize in tech investments. But you work from home. Managing a $3.2 billion portfolio, yes. I work from home because I own the company. Dad looked stunned. $3 billion? $3.2 billion in total portfolio value. My personal net worth is approximately $840 million. The number landed like a bomb. Vanessa stumbled backward. Brandon looked sick. The room had gone completely silent. Every guest was watching the engagement party, forgotten. Revelation. Brandon recovered first, his CEO instincts kicking in. Miss Chin, I apologize for any confusion. You would have what? Reconsidered the engagement. He looked embarrassed. I turned to address the room. Since we're all here for the board reception anyway, I should share some news. The board will be voting Monday on a significant merger proposal. Brandon's expression shifted to alarm. What merger proposal? Chin Capital is consolidating Novatech with two other portfolio companies, DataStream Technologies and Quantum Analytics. The merger will create a larger, more competitive entity called Chin Digital Solutions. The executives exchanged glances. This was clearly news to them. We'll maintain Novatech's client base and expand service offerings significantly. It's a strategic move that will increase shareholder value by an estimated 37%. What happens to current leadership? The CFO asked carefully. The merger requires organizational restructuring. The combined company will need one CEO, one CFO, consolidated VP positions. We'll be eliminating some redundant executive roles. Brandon's face went from pale to red. You're firing me. I'm offering you a choice. VP of Client Relations in the new company at $280,000 annually, or a severance package worth 18 months of your current salary. Both options include full benefits and equity. The room erupted in whispers. Vanessa stood frozen, watching her fairy tale unravel. You can't do this, she said. You're doing this because I uninvited you. I'm doing this because it's the right business decision. The merger proposal has been in development for 4 months, long before your engagement. The board vote is a formality. I control enough shares to approve it regardless. I looked at Brandon. You're a competent CEO, but Novatech needs to be part of something larger to stay competitive. The VP role is a genuine offer. You'd be valuable in client relations. This is insane, Vanessa said. You're ruining his career. His career isn't ruined. He's being offered a well-compensated VP position in a company with significantly better growth prospects. But he's a CEO, and he'll be a VP reporting to a CEO with more experience scaling companies. Brandon looked at me, jaw tight. Do I have time to consider? Until Monday's board meeting. 9 a.m. He nodded stiffly. I turned to the guests. The rest of tonight is still an engagement celebration. Congratulations to Brandon and Vanessa. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, chaos erupted. Executives surrounding Brandon with questions, Vanessa's voice rising in panic, my parents calling my name. I kept walking. Resolution. My mother caught up with me in the parking lot. Maya, wait. Please. I stopped, turned. Why didn't you tell us? Her eyes were full of tears. All these years we thought you were struggling. We worried about you constantly. You never asked what I was actually doing. You assumed I was failing and treated me accordingly. But $3 billion. $3.2 billion in portfolio value. She laughed, slightly hysterical. Your father and I have been sending you money for holidays. Gift cards because we thought you needed help. I know. I've been donating them to tech education nonprofits. You've been letting us worry while you were secretly rich? I wasn't secretly anything. I stopped trying to explain my career to people who'd already decided I was unsuccessful. Dad appeared out of breath. Maya, we had no idea. I know. Your sister is devastated. She's crying, saying you ruined her engagement. I didn't ruin anything. I made a business decision that happens to affect her fiancé. The merger was planned months ago. Vanessa burst through the doors, makeup streaking. You vindictive bitch. You're punishing me. I'm doing this to increase shareholder value and position 3 companies for better market competitiveness. You're demoting Brandon because I hurt your feelings. Brandon is being offered a role appropriate to his experience level in a company 3 times Novatech's current size. He's a CEO. You're taking that away. He's a CEO of a mid-size company that was struggling before Chin Capital's investment. Now he can be a VP in a company with actual growth potential, or take severance and find another CEO position. His choice. She slapped me. The sound echoed across the parking lot. I didn't react. Feel better. You've always been jealous of me. Vanessa, I'm worth $840 million. I own pieces of 17 companies. What exactly do you have that I want? The question stopped her cold. I built this career while you were telling people I worked odd freelance jobs. While you were embarrassed to have me at parties. You were so busy being ashamed of me that you never once asked what I was actually doing. Mom touched Vanessa's arm. Honey, maybe. Vanessa jerked away. You're all taking her side? She offered him another job, Dad said quietly. That's not destruction. At lower pay. At a more stable company with better prospects, I corrected. But this isn't about you, Vanessa. This is business. The merger makes sense for shareholders, for employees, for long-term growth. Your feelings don't factor into my fiduciary responsibility. She stared at me like I was a stranger. You've changed. I'm exactly who I've always been. You just never paid enough attention to notice. I got in my car and drove away. The merger announcement went public Monday. The tech press covered it extensively. 3 Chin Capital portfolio companies combining into a major new player. Stock prices jumped. Industry analysts called it a strategic masterstroke. Brandon accepted the VP position. Smart choice. Within 6 months, Chin Digital Solutions had doubled Novatech's previous revenue. Vanessa called me once 2 weeks later. I let it go to voicemail. She left a rambling message about family and forgiveness. I deleted it. My parents tried harder. Dad sent emails about wanting to understand my business. Mom wrote letters about how proud they were. I had coffee with them once 3 months later. It was awkward. They asked careful questions about venture capital, clearly having Googled terms beforehand. They apologized repeatedly. We just never imagined, Mom said. I stopped talking about it when it became clear nobody was interested. We were interested. We just didn't understand. You didn't try to understand. There's a difference. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister is having a hard time. Brandon's salary reduction meant scaling back wedding plans. He makes $280,000 a year plus equity. They'll survive. She feels like you're punishing her. I'm running a business. Her feelings aren't my responsibility. They didn't ask again. A year later, Forbes ran a profile on Chin Capital Ventures. The article mentioned that I'd started the firm with inherited seed money and built it through strategic investments. One line resonated. Chin is known in tech circles for her ability to identify value others overlook. Vanessa got married. I wasn't invited. I sent an expensive gift, a crystal vase from Tiffany's, with a card that said, "Congratulations." She never acknowledged it. I continued building Chin Capital's portfolio. We crossed $5 billion in managed assets. I hired brilliant people, invested in innovative companies focused on sustainable growth. And every time someone underestimated me, every networking event where men assumed I was someone's assistant, every pitch meeting where investors talked over me, I remembered Vanessa's words. We want only successful people there. Success looks different than people expect. Sometimes it wears a cocktail dress to an engagement party. Sometimes it signs merger documents that change people's lives. And sometimes it walks away from people who can't see past their own limited definitions of achievement. I'd built something real. Something that mattered. And I'd done it without their approval, their understanding, or their permission. That was the success that counted.